Alright, I made butter chicken or Murgh Makhani. First off, you got 2 tablespoons unsalted butter in a large saucepan that's like 4 quarts or more, medium heat. You got to use unsalted butter because you want to more precisely control the amount of salt in the overall dish and when it gets added. Don't use salted butter. Some people are kind of stubborn about that. But some recipes call for salted butter, but this one does not. Same with the cookie recipe that I made before, if you guys saw that. Something else too, I didn't notice until I was editing this, but my fly is open the whole time, so I do apologize for that. That was not intentional. I'm a big fan of Indian food. Now I put in 1 onion, 5 garlic cloves, 4 teaspoons of grated ginger, and 1 chopped serrano pepper. You stir frequently until the onion begins to brown, about 8 to 10 minutes. I had already pre-chopped everything and put everything in separate bowls before I got started. I like to do that. It just makes it easier to kind of throw things in right when they're needed. It helps you control the time, manage your time a bit better if you prepare everything beforehand. Something else I should also point out, take off your wristwatch if you're going to cook, and any rings you might be wearing. Or if you have rings you can't take off, then use gloves. You don't want stuff like raw chicken getting on your rings and on your watch because that can cause cross contamination. I wore my Apple Watch the whole time and I didn't think about it till I was editing, so next time I'll try to be careful about that. Luckily, I didn't get anything on my watch, so I think it's okay, but you never know. So it's important to just be careful with that stuff. I sped a lot of this up, so it's not going to be real time. I probably could have sped it up a little bit more, but it's fine. Then you add 1 teaspoon of garam masala, 1 teaspoon ground coriander, half a teaspoon ground cumin, half a teaspoon ground black pepper. You stir frequently until fragrant, about 3 minutes. I just use store-bought garam masala, and I had it left over from the last time I made this recipe. Fresh is always better, and if you, uh, really want the best flavor, it's good to make it at home. You buy all the raw ingredients and make the garam masala yourself right before you're about to use it. But store-bought's fine. Maybe one day I'll make a video about how to make homemade garam masala. It really does make a big difference, especially if you're wanting to impress people. So for me, it started getting fragrant pretty quick, but I kept at it. I started scraping some of the fond off the bottom of the saucepan. You probably really don't need to do that. In a minute, I'm going to be whisking it with water and tomato juice, and that actually removes all the fond anyway. So I don't know, I just did it. But again, it's probably not necessary. At this heat, it shouldn't burn. It might look like it's about to burn, but it won't as long as you stick to the time frame. There it is, the half a cup tomato paste, 1.5 cups of water, and then use a whisk, and that'll get all the fond that's stuck to the bottom of the pan off. See, I had pre-mixed the tomato paste and water in a bowl and had it ready. There's the whisk. This is just the sauce part. Ideally, you should probably chop your onions a bit finer than I did. I'm not the greatest at chopping onions, but it's okay because in a minute we're going to be blending it up with an immersion blender, so it'll all be smooth by the time I'm done. And this is 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1 teaspoon of salt. Mix that in and bring it to boil. You really don't have to raise the heat to bring it to a boil. Just let it stay at the same heat. And it will boil eventually. If you're in a hurry, you might raise the heat a little bit, but just watch it, you know. And again, I did speed this up. It took a little bit longer than it looks. This is another recipe that I got from that same cookbook, the America's Test Kitchen Cookbook 2004 edition. There's a new edition out this year, but I don't have that one. I still have 2024. I think I said 2004, but I meant 2024. So add in 1 cup heavy cream with it off of the heat. So take it off the heat, add the cup of heavy cream, and stir it in. And heavy whipping cream is the same thing. So you can use heavy whipping cream if that's all you can find. But not whipped cream, okay? Whipping cream, it's different. Just in case you didn't know. Here's the immersion blender. Do this for about 30 to 60 seconds. Be careful not to turn it up too high because it will splatter. Try not to pick it up out of the liquid while you're stirring because it can also kind of splatter around. And it is hot, so you don't want to get it on you at this point. Not an exact science, just do your best. I left my burner on. This burner will automatically regulate its temperature, so if there's nothing on it, it'll turn itself off every few seconds to stay at a certain temperature. Put the sauce back on simmer and whisk in 2 tablespoons unsalted butter. I'd already pre-cut up the butter and had it in the fridge, so that's 2 tablespoons that was left over from the initial butter I put in. A lot of butter in this dish. I just kind of whisked it in until it all melted. And I tried to whisk off the sides as well. I've never been much of a chef. Not really. I never really learned to cook as a kid. So a lot of this is kind of new territory for me. Doing a recipe while recording is definitely a juggling act, which I'm trying to practice doing that until I get really good at it. I think I did pretty good this time around, though. So this will keep for up to 4 days in the fridge, but I like to use it right after I make it. The sauce, that is. So I move the oven rack down 6 inches from the broiler at the top, and I turn the broiler on to preheat. I combine 2 pounds boneless, skinless chicken thighs with half a cup of plain Greek yogurt, not the vanilla stuff, 1 teaspoon of salt. And I put it all in a bowl and tossed it around just to make sure the chicken's coated with all the yogurt. I didn't show it on the camera, but I edited it out. After I did this, I did wash my hands. So right after I put the chicken in the bowl, I washed my hands before I grabbed the yogurt and the spatula. That way I don't cross-contaminate those dishes. It might seem excessive to wash your hands to do that when you're just about to put your hands into the raw chicken. But when I'm dealing with raw meat, I always wash my hands a lot. So then I added in the 1 teaspoon of salt there. Yeah, and this is the part where you really don't want to be wearing a wristwatch. But I think I got lucky and didn't get anything on there. Who knows? You really can't tell. There's probably something on the watch. I should have been more careful about that. I forget I'm wearing my watch a lot of times, so it is what it is. So yeah, I'm going to use tongs and place the chicken onto a wire rack that's set in a baking sheet that's lined with aluminum foil. Now, this chicken had been in the fridge right before I used it. Um, because of that, the cooking time for me was a little longer than the recipe called for. It's interesting because the last time I made this, the cooking time was exactly perfect. So I don't know what I did different. It might be because I had the chicken in the fridge right up until I used it, so it was kind of cold. So it maybe took a little longer to cook than it should have. That might be the difference. I don't really remember. But anyway, you broil it until the temperature hits 175 degrees inside. That's about 16 to 20 minutes. And make sure you flip the chicken halfway through. I usually try to split the difference. So for me, I tried to aim for 18 minutes. I'm also making aromatic basmati rice. So 3 tablespoons unsalted butter in a medium saucepan. That's about 3 quarts, medium heat. I sped this up again. You got to have the rice. You can't just have the butter chicken. You got to have the rice to go with it. So this is actually 2 recipes in one. And this rice goes with a lot of different Indian dishes, so 1 teaspoon cumin seeds, 3 crushed cardamom pods, 3 whole cloves. Stir constantly until fragrant, about 1 minute. Yeah, the whole time I'm using my watch as a timer as well, so. 1.5 cups of rinsed basmati rice. Stir constantly until fragrant, about 1 minute again. I always pre-rinse the rice in a fine mesh strainer. You just run kind of lukewarm water over it until the water starts to run clear out of the bottom. That's when you know it's rinsed. You just want to stir it around and get it all nice and coated before you add the water. Two and a quarter cups water, 1 Ceylon cinnamon stick, 1 bay leaf, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Bring to boil, then reduce heat to low. Cover and simmer until all water is absorbed, about 17 minutes. Now, the Ceylon cinnamon is important, okay? There's 2 kinds of cinnamon. What a lot of people consider cinnamon is actually called cassia. It's not true cinnamon. So make sure you go with the Ceylon true cinnamon. It makes a huge difference. So yeah, this is about 17 minutes sped up here. And remember, the chicken's still cooking. The sauce is just resting. And about halfway through, I'll flip the chicken while the rice is still cooking. So it hit a boil. I put the heat on low. I put the cover on. I'm flipping the chicken halfway through. So this is about 9 to 10 minutes in. At this point, the chicken should be a little more done than it looks on the camera here. Like I said, the first time I made this recipe, the timing was much more correct. I don't know exactly what I did different. I guess it's because the chicken was chilled when I used it. So after 17 minutes, take the rice off the heat for 10 minutes, but don't take the lid off. Don't touch it. Don't disturb it. It's still going. So rice is tricky like that. You don't want to disrupt it until it's totally done. I haven't taken the rice off the heat yet. This is still within the 17-minute window. While we're waiting on this, you guys should check out the America's Test Kitchen YouTube channel. I mean, that company has been around forever. They've been on TV. They're just great. They do a lot of testing and verifying recipes. They find the best recipes and put them together. They make videos. They've got their own video covering this exact recipe. They're just awesome. So definitely subscribe to them. I'll put a link in the description of this video on where to buy the cookbook and where their YouTube channel is for you to subscribe to it. They also do Cook's Country. It's another channel. And they, Cook's Illustrated magazine, I think, is somehow connected to them as well, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, now the rice is resting off heat for 10 minutes. These recipes are not the healthiest. They're really, really good. They're healthier than a lot of like processed food, but there's a lot of butter and salt. So anyway, you got to remove the cardamom pods, the cloves, the cinnamon sticks, and the bay leaf. Make sure you get all of that out because it's not edible. And then you fluff it with the fork. And at this point, there shouldn't be any water at the bottom. That's why I say you really got to wait to start doing this with the fork because all the water needs to be absorbed. And if you do it too early, you can really mess it up. So anyway, now remove the chicken, verify the internal temperature, and then let it rest for 5 minutes before you start cutting it. So it should be 175 inside. Reheat the sauce on medium-low heat. Stir in the 2 tablespoons of chopped cilantro. You can taste the sauce and see if you need to add salt. I didn't taste it because it's perfect, in my opinion, but some people like more salt, so. Save about a tablespoon of that cilantro for later. The chicken's still resting, the 5 minutes. The broiler's still on. Yeah, make sure to turn the broiler off. Once the chicken's at the right temperature, just turn the broiler off. Don't leave it on. All right, so now we're chopping the chicken into like 3/4 inch chunks. Not super precise. When you're chopping, always be sure to curl your fingers back away from the blade on the hand that's holding the chicken. I did do that, although it's not too easy to see because of where the camera is. It's behind my hand. But if there was an overhead shot, you would see that my fingertips are curled back away from the blade. That's very important. It's very easy to forget about your pinky or your thumb and get it cut, so be very careful with that. Also, when you're moving that tray around in and out of the oven, be super careful because it's got a lot of liquid in the bottom and you don't want to tilt it and spill it. So you can't really tell, but my fingers are curled away from the blade. It sort of looks like I'm chopping my fingers off, but I'm not. So now you stir in the chicken into the sauce. Then put it in a serving dish with the rice at this point. And you're going to want to sprinkle in a little bit of that fresh cilantro that you have left over. It helps with the color and it's good because it's fresh. You know, it adds a good amount of flavor. I did actually do that. I just didn't show it on camera. I forgot to show what it looks like after you sprinkle in the fresh cilantro. It looks better. But yeah. I didn't do any like color correction on the video or anything like that, so it probably looks better on like a professionally done video. There's the America's Test Kitchen cookbook that I got the recipe from, the same as the cookie recipe. I'll put a link in the description to buy that. Try this recipe out, guys. Thanks.